Hello, church, and here's our devotional for Friday, July 24th. I'm doing this from my office, which you might be able to recognize in the background. And boy, does this sound different than the sanctuary, which is going to weird me out. So, doing some work on the windows and electrical in the sanctuary. So, wanted to shift locations and we'll get through it together. We are in chapter 8 of Song of Songs. We're going to be doing verses 1 to 7, and it's combining two sections from Weems, but most of the commentary I wanted to do from the second section, which also happens to be what's probably the most familiar portion of Song of Songs, and I have used and have heard used at a number of weddings. Set me as a seal upon your heart. So we'll get into those pieces today. And a reminder as we're working to this section, so we'll be finishing the identified part of 8:7 from starting back in 7:1 and the shepherd's speech. And the phrase is, who is this leaning on her beloved? Begin at verse 1, chapter 8. Oh, that you were a brother to me, who nursed at my mother's breast. If I met you outside, I would kiss you, and no one would despise me. I would lead you and bring you into the house of my mother and into the chamber of the one who bore me. I would give you spiced wine to drink, the juice of my pomegranates. Oh, that his left hand were under my head, and that his right hand embrace me. I adjure you, daughters, O daughters of Jerusalem, do not stir up or awaken love until it is ready. Who is that coming from the wilderness, leaning upon her beloved? Under the apple tree I awakened you. There your mother was in labor with you. There she who bore you was in labor. So a couple things going on. We hear the protagonist's voice. We hear the daughters of Jerusalem questioning about this, who is coming from the wilderness, leaning on her beloved. So kind of this, close moment of them being together. And then we get into the apple tree part and the mother who bore you. What Weems gets into in this portion of commentary is ultimately about Mediterranean culture, and that in the time of the Old Testament, most likely it was cousins and familial relations that are being married. And so these words of, oh, were you a brother of mine, is talking about that family connection where the protagonist would not be perceived as operating outside the bounds of propriety in her affection. As a little bit of context, which immediately takes me back to the unimaginative exegete comment from Weems as we're getting into this interpretation, and our what I would argue as our most memorable and widely used verses in 6 to 7. Set me as a seal upon your heart, as a seal upon your arm, for love is strong as death, passion fierce as the grave. Its flashes are flashes of fire, a raging flame. Many waters cannot quench love, neither can floods drown it. If one offered for love all the wealth of one's house, it would be utterly scorned. Few commentaries and some reflection. The contemplative mood of this passage is a curious change from the flirtatious tone that dominates most of the other portions of the book. Cast as a homily on the power of love, this piece of worldly lyrics is reminiscent of the aphoristic material one finds in the wisdom texts of Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. This unit alone lends to the entire poem a kind of wisdom-like quality, where the object of the lyric's message, like that of Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, is to transmit a very important lesson about life. In this case, verses 6 to 7 impart one of the most important lessons of love. Love is possibly the most powerful force on earth. Even chaotic forces, fire and flood, cannot subdue it. Whereas the sages who stand behind books like Proverbs and Ecclesiastes use aphorisms and irony to impart such hard earned wisdom, the sage behind the Song of Songs uses love lyrics to ponder the lessons of human experience. Verses 6 to 7 address the wise, contemplative souls who are prepared to reckon with the impediments and frustrations to love, the social norms and cultural opinions that legislate love, and the changing mutations and irrational sides of love. This is not knowledge that one acquires through hearsay. This kind of knowledge, acquired through experience and careful observation of life's rhythms, is savored by the wise. A little pause there. One of the big pieces we talk about when we look at Schwenkfeld, and part of this is attributed to Dr. Jack Rothenberger, is the experiential knowledge of Christ. And so the importance of this experience, and not just an academic understanding, but a felt experience of desire and love, which fits very well into that commentary. And now for her concluding reflection for this final portion before our epilogue. For all of its titillating descriptions of the male and female anatomy, for all of its lush intimations about lovemaking, Song of Songs does not mislead its readers about the dark, dangerous, and complicated sides of human passion. Couples who clamor to include sections of the poetry in their wedding vows and to reproduce portions in their wedding announcements without reflecting on its ominous undertones have missed a valuable look into the future that awaits them. Unwed, casual lovers who glibly take the book as divine permission for their unbridled sexual appetites patently profane its purposes. Song of Songs is about neither romance nor sex, not entirely anyway. It is about love struggling against the odds. And this unit, where the shepherd speaks for what perhaps is the last time in 7:1-9, and the maiden in the boldest of fashion in 10-13, theirs is a love that has been beset by powers and forces that have threatened to overwhelm them. That's it for today. We'll be back with you to finish up with our epilogue and our study of Song of Songs.